Guys, stick around. Don't go anywhere. What we're going to talk about in this video could affect each and every one of you watching this video. Here we go. We're going to talk about something that occurred over 150 years ago. As we know, history does repeat itself, and I think history is probably overdue with regard to this event right here that I'm about to talk about, and that's the Carrington event of 1859. When that occurred back in 1859, it disrupted telegraphs, basically the only form of communication they had back then, other than horse and mule. So in today's world, where we rely on modern technology, satellites, power grids, and things like that, what would happen if we saw another Carrington-like event if and when the sun were to erupt again like it did back in 1859? What you're looking at right here is an eruption from 2003. This was a large-scale eruption, but it wasn't anything like the Carrington event of 1859. The Carrington event of 1859 was the most intense geomagnetic storm on record. It caused auroras down in the deep southern latitudes. People in southern Florida, northern Cuba reported seeing auroras back in 1859. A modern recurrence would involve a powerful coronal mass ejection, a CME, striking the Earth's magnetosphere and producing large currents in the upper atmosphere and in the ground, so-called geomagnetically induced currents. Those are very real. They happen today, but they happen on a small scale. And here's what could happen if we were to see a large-scale event like the Carrington event of 1859. Potential effects: high currents induced in long conductors, transmission lines could overload or damage large high-voltage transformers. Transformers might overheat or melt, and the recovery of damaged transformers could take weeks, months, or even years. And you guys know how we all rely on our smartphones for pretty much everything these days. Well, what if the telecommunications system went down because of a large Earth-directed solar storm? Here's the thing. We don't have a complete, full understanding of what the sun is entirely capable of doing. And if we were to have a repeat of 1859, it would probably throw us back into the Stone Ages. Widespread power outages would cascade into other systems: water supply, sewage pumping, food distribution, hospitals, etc. It would just create a massive global domino effect. Everything that we depend on today would be disrupted. In regions where transformers are damaged, outages could last very long. In others, shorter but disrupted periods. All of us rely on internet and cell phones, and the telecommunications systems would definitely be interfered with if we were to see a large-scale event, another Carrington event. Disruption or failure of radio systems, especially HF and long-distance, satellite communications, GPS positioning, and possibly global internet blackouts. Some systems might bounce back quickly, others might remain impaired until repairs or replacements happen. Satellites and spacecraft, space-based system, radiation damage to satellites and electronics. Here's the thing: satellites wouldn't necessarily be easy to repair, and they also say that if a Carrington event like 1859 were to occur today, it would have an impact on electric cars like you're seeing in this video here. Something weird happened on this day. All of these cars in this parking lot up in Michigan. This video was sent in by Maximilian, who couldn't believe what he was seeing. These are all electric vehicles, and for some reason on this evening, and there was nobody there, all of these cars were behaving very mysteriously. Their hazard lights were blinking in the front and back for unknown reasons. And again, nobody was there to instigate this. 95% of these cars were reacting to something. What that exactly was still remains a mystery. Were they responding to some sort of rogue and random energy from a large-scale solar event, maybe ground currents? This is just a small example of what potentially could happen on a much larger scale if we were to have a Carrington event like we saw back in 1859. It would affect most aspects of our lives. Increased radiation exposure to crew and passengers on high-altitude airplane flights, communication blackouts with these planes, and especially communications blackouts in the higher latitudes. Airlines may reroute ground flights or suspend polar routes until conditions become stable again. Ground system and pipelines, rails, and other infrastructure. Guys, a Carrington event would affect every aspect of our lives. And here we go, the big one. Other than power outages, telecommunications outages, economic and societal effects, large economic losses, trillions of dollars globally, supply chain disruptions, panic, cascading system failures around the world, finance, healthcare. Some estimates suggest aircraft recovering fully could take years following another possible Carrington event. Auroras would be the least of our worries, but they would probably go all the way down to the equator. And in summary, here we go. What makes a modern Carrington event much more serious than an 1859 event? In 1859, there were no large electric grids, no satellites, no cell phones, very little dependence on long-distance communication. The impact was mostly limited to telegraph systems. Today, nearly every aspect of modern life, healthcare, food, supply, water, communication, finance, transportation, depends on electricity, electronics, and networks, all of which are vulnerable. The scale of conductors, power lines, undersea cables is orders of magnitude larger now, increasing exposure to induced currents. And honestly, they don't know exactly how bad it would be because it depends on many factors, like the orientation and speed of the CME, which regions are hit the hardest, how robust the grid and infrastructure are, and how much beforehand preparation and mitigation is done. Well, what you can do to prepare is have a little bit of cash on hand so you'll have an ability to barter just in case the power's down for a while. Maybe have an extra case or two of water sitting around just in case, because we have to have water. Just some very bare necessities, because you never know when another event like a Carrington event of 1859 could occur. Are we due for another Carrington event? I would say we're long overdue. It's been over 150 years since something like this has happened, and we're still learning what the sun is capable of doing. And at this point right now, we're still learning about the sun, and we don't necessarily know its full potential. Hopefully that won't happen anytime soon. Just know that the possibility of something like this happening again in the future is very, very real, and it's better to be prepared and not need it than to not be prepared and need it. Thanks for watching. Have a super day, and be safe out there.